Hey everybody, Henry W. Steele here. In this third video of the series, we're going back to Gann's 45 Years book. I'm going to point something out to you that if you've read this book of his, you most likely didn't notice, and you should really read the book from front to back. Let's look at an excerpt from page 20. Here, Gann's giving some very good advice for any trader to learn, but he also just happens to be giving some instructions for decoding the book. Let's look at it. One of the most important things that you should keep in mind is not how much profit or how much loss you are going to make. You should leave the money part out of the question. Your object should be to keep right on the market and go with the trend of the market. Study all the time to determine the correct trend. Do not think about profits. If you are right on the market, the profits will come. If you are wrong, then use the old reliable protector, a stop loss order. The underlined part is what we're really looking at here. Gann, while giving a very valuable piece of advice, is also giving some instructions. There's also some information in the last sentence that's important, but we're not going to cover that in this video. I should point out that Gann does give keys later in the book that are used to help solve things that show up earlier. The above is one of them. So let's look at one of the places where the above information can be applied. We'll go all the way back to the first page of the first chapter to use the above. Now, the heading of chapter 1 in his book is it more difficult to make profits now than before 1932? And keep in mind, this book was written in 1949. Gann starts the first chapter of the book writing about the question of one's ability to make money in the markets now, when the book was written, compared to the late 20s and early 30s of the 20th century, when the price fluctuations were quite volatile. He spends the first paragraph explaining that you should be trading for the long pull, or weeks to months at a time, due to the changes in the margin and tax laws. Day trading at that time in history was not very profitable as a result. So Gann filled this 45 Years book of his with longer-term forecasting and trend determination methods. It's very important to realize that. Keeping this in mind will help you keep the light from being covered so we can get to the things Gann was really wanting you to find in the book. Here's the first place to use our page 20 instructions. We see a lot of numbers here. At the very bottom of page 1 we find 1949, June 14, when stocks reached extreme low, there were about 1,100 issues traded in that day. There were only 112 stocks selling above $100 per share. Many of these were preferred stocks held by investors, and this class of stock moves in a narrow range. On June 14th, there were 315 stocks selling below 20, 202 selling below 10, and 83 selling below $5 per share, making a total of 600 selling. Then he continues on page 2, below 20 per share, or more than 50% of the total issues traded. With so many stocks selling at low levels, you can only make money by taking a long pull trading position. During recent years, many of the high-priced stocks have declared stock dividends, splitting up the stock and putting more stocks in the low price range. Now look again with Gann's instructions in mind. Remember those instructions. You should leave the money part out of the question. So if we go and reread this, we see that he gives $100 per share here as a number. Then when he repeats the date, June 14th, we see that he gives the number 20 and the number 10 without a dollar sign. And then he gives 83 selling below $5 per share. In other words, he uses the dollar sign again. So he's giving us instructions here on what we should be paying attention to versus what we don't have to pay attention to. So with this in mind, it will become easier to pull this apart and see what he was trying to get you to see, if it's your time to see it. Anyway, this is the end of this third video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again in the fourth.